Hello chess fans and welcome to Chess Vibe, and today we are going to talk about the game between Levon Aronian versus Arjun Ragasi. And this game is from the Tata Steel Chess India Blitz 2021, and this game is actually the Armageddon game because in the Blitz both the players were having the same points. So the game went to the you can say the Blitz section where the players who will win there would be two rounds. So the player winning the most of the round will win the tournament. But both the rounds went into a draw. So now we have the final game, the Armageddon, and Aronian is having white pieces and Arjun is having the black pieces. So in the clock time, the clock is Arun is having the 5 minutes and Arjun is having the 4 minutes time. And Levon Aronian is in the must-win situation, or else if the game would have been ended in a draw, then Arjun will win the game. Okay, this game is actually very interesting because it's the Armageddon, right? So let's talk. Let's see what happened in the game. So Levon Aronian with the white pieces started the game with 1d4, and before starting the game, I must tell you that if you're new to my channel, then make sure to subscribe the channel and please help me by clicking the like button as well. So and also click the notification bell as well so that you will get the notification whenever I would be uploading new videos. So after d4, Arjun started the game with knight f6, bishop to f4, and now we have d5. So we have the Indian game on the board. e3, bishop to f5, bishop to d3. So both the players are developing the pieces. After bishop d3, black is having choice. He can capture the bishop or he can go back. We have the bishop trade, and now Aronian captured the bishop with the pawn. And the idea of capturing the bishop with the pawn here is Aronian wants to play e4 at some point, having the nice center. And second, there could be some ideas with queen b3 hitting the pawn, and somewhat like that. So after c into d3, we have e6, queen b3, already going for the pawn on b7. Arjun played it very safe by playing b6 because usually the b7 pawn is also known as the poison pawn, and the line is actually to play knight c6, and if I try to capture the pawn, we have this knight b4 and the line goes on. But he played safe because it was an Armageddon. He played b6, knight to c3, bishop to d6, and now we have bishop to g3 backed by Aronian. He didn't went for this capturing the bishop, but he played it safe by playing bishop g3, c6, knight to f3, bishop into g3, h into g3, and now we have knight to d7. And now we have finally e4 by Aronian, opening up the position, having a nice center. And Arjun simply played h6. And now we have a nice rook lift by Aronian. There are two ideas in this position by playing rook h4. First, after playing rook h4, the rook is protecting the pawns. And second idea here is white is actually provoking black to play g5. But g5 is a mistake because now we have knight into g5. H into g5 is not possible because simply rook into h8 and it's a check, queen is lost and everything is lost. So definitely Arjun saw it, and he, after playing rook h4, he went for the move queen e7. Idea is to do long castle, and now we have him finally e5 by Levon Aronian, having a nice center, closing the center, hitting the knight. Knight went back to h7, and now we have long castle by Aronian. Knight to f8, so black wants to put his knight to g6, hitting the rook. So Aronian simply ignored that and he simply played king b1. Knight to g6, rook to h5, queen to d8, and now we have rook to h1. And the idea of Aronian is very simple. He wants to push his g3 pawn to g4 and g5, and it's already very weakening the h6 pawn, and black cannot capture the pawn because it's already a double attack on the rook. So we have b5 by black because black decided to attack on the queen side because white have able to castle on the queen side. Knight to e2 by white, queen to b6, and now we have g4, going for the idea of playing g5. Long castle by black, g5, h into g5 because h into g5 was the best move because it doesn't matter what will you play, white is going to capture the pawn, and it's basically it's a triple attack and it's a double defense, so attack is going to win. We have the h into g5. And now we have first knight in g5, capturing the pawn, and now the f7 pawn is also hanging. Black played rook into h5, and now we have rook to f8, protecting the pawn. White went for the move rook to h7. And this was the crucial moment for Arjun because okay, he was playing with black pieces. And after rook h7, first of all, white is threatening to capture the pawn on g7. So the best move in this position was to actually play queen to d8, hitting the knight, and uh, first of all, you cannot play f4 defending the knight because knight into f4, knight into f4, and queen into g5 wins the game for black. So at the place of f4, white is forced to play knight to f3, and now black can play rook to h8. And you have to capture the rook, and after queen into h8, it's a slightly better position for white, but definitely a playable position for both the sides. You can't capture the pawn on g7 because after rook to h1 check, king c2, queen f8, and the rook is trapped. You have to capture the knight, f into g6, and black is better. So, but queen d8 wasn't played by Arjun, and he went for the move knight into e5. He gave a sacrifice. And after knight into e5, Aronian simply captured the knight, and Arjun decided to capture the pawn on f2. So this was his plan. After playing queen into f2, first of all, looking this position at the first sight, it looks like something is happening perhaps. Because black is hitting the knight, black is hitting the pawn, there could be some deadly checks from the black side because black just needs the draw and he will win the game. After queen into f2, Aronian saw that and he simply played queen to c2, defending the knight and hitting the pawn on c6. Arjun captured the third pawn by playing knight into e5, capturing the pawn and also protecting the pawn on c6. Knight to f3, and now we have knight into f3. And after capturing the knight, this was the crucial moment for Aronian, and he took around something like 30 seconds or perhaps 20 seconds, I'm not sure. Because this position is actually very crucial because white is having the two ideas. He can either capture the pawn with the queen on c6, or he can either go for capturing the knight on f3. And that is the only single move which gives a better result for white, or else other move is completely drawish. And okay, Aronian luckily went for the right idea. The wrong idea was to capture the pawn on c6, which would have been turned into a draw because black would have simply played king d8, queen d6 check, king e8, and it's a completely drawish position. You have to repeat the position because if you try to capture the knight, simply queen into e2, and it's a completely drawish position. Yeah, black is simply going to give a checks and it's over. So luckily, not luckily, I think Aronian simply calculated it and he went for the right move by capturing the knight. And now you have king g7 defending the pawn on c6. We have a3, a very nice move by Aronian. He's making a square for the king to run away on a2 so that if there would be any checks in the future of back rank checks, he would always be having a square. Now we have queen into f3 capturing the pawn, which was not actually the right move. The right move in this position to continue the position would have been to play rook to g8, giving protection to the pawn on g7. Yeah, because rook into g7 was already very strong. But Arjun went for the move queen into f3. It was Armageddon, very little time for both the players. Both the players are in incredible pressure. We have knight to d4. This was the main move. This was the move that made black lost his position. After knight into, because after knight d4, white is hitting the queen as well as the pawn on c6, and it's a double attack on the pawn on c6. First we have queen f1 check, king a2, and now we have rook to c8 by black, protecting the pawn. Knight to b3. Perhaps the idea could be to play something like knight f5, knight c5, perhaps queen c5, or perhaps even capturing the pawn. Black simply played queen g8, taking control of the dark squares as well as protecting the pawn on g7. White went for the move queen c3. There could be two ideas. First of all, white can play queen c5, and second, now white is already threatening to capture the pawn on g7 with the rook. Black played c5, so perhaps black wants to open up the position with c4, sort of like that. But after playing c5, white is already better actually, because here comes the powerful move rook into g7, capturing the pawn, hitting the queen, queen to f2, and now comes the legendary move by Aronian, which was incredibly hard to find in the position, which was d4. And calculating d4 is definitely not a child's play, because Calculating d4 is actually pretty hard because yeah, many things are happening. There could be some pawn push, there could be some attack, and there could be something else. Arjun decided to capture the pawn on d4, and now this shows the brilliancy of the Aronian. First, he played knight to a5 check, king to g8, and now we have queen to g4. Idea is to attack the pawn on b5. So black simply played d3. Idea is very simple. If white tries to capture the pawn, queen will come back to b6 and protect the king. But Aronian had something different in his sleeve, and he went for the move queen to d6 check. King is forced to go on 8, and now we have queen to d7. Another move number 38. After playing queen d7, Arjun Ragasi with the black pieces has resigned the game, and we have the champion of the Tata Steel India Blitz 2021, which is Levon Aronian. The reason, after playing queen d7, Arjun resigned the game. First of all, white is threatening to capture the rook, and it's a checkmate. Second, white is also threatening to play queen b7, and the b7 square is also covered by the knight, and it would be a checkmate as well. So if black tries to defend both the ideas by playing rook g8, defending the rook and also protecting the covering the square on b7, there simply comes queen c6 check, hitting the king, and it's forced for black to play rook to b7, and after playing queen into b7, it's game over for black. It's a checkmate. So I think the crucial moment in the game was to play d4 on the move number 34. This was the crucial moment for both the players. Yeah, a c4 would have been a much better move, but after knight c5 check, king 8, king to 8, and knight to d7, white is still better, but a bit of a tricky game. But okay, overall, both the players played incredibly well. First of all, Arjun went on to win the Tata Steel India Rapid 2021, and now we have the winner of the Tata Steel India Blitz 2021. And Arjun basically he was not favorite in the tournament because definitely he's not well known by the players and he's like a newcomer of the tournament. Yeah. So, but his performance was just a high class level. He showed his level. Yeah, he came second in the Blitz and he came first in the Rapid, which was incredibly strong. So, first of all, if you like this game, then make sure to like the video and like the video. Share the video with your friends and everyone to see this incredible game played by both these players. Okay, and after the game, they had a nice talk with each other, which was very interesting. And make sure to subscribe the channel as well. So I'm going to come up with these new videos for you. So till then, stay tuned and keep watching Chess Vibes.